It's one of the most iconic moments in the history of golf. The locale, the 18th hole on the stadium course at the Players' Championship. The opponent had won 10 of his previous 16 starts. The golf world was looking for someone who could tame a tiger.
Be the right club.
And with a 6-iron from 179, the moment was born.
Be the right club.
Welcome to the Be the Right Club Today podcast, presented by Makefield Putters.
Be the right club today.
Now, here are your hosts, Mark Greenhalgh and Todd Burrell.
Welcome into the Be the Right Club Today podcast presented by Makefield Putters. This week, Todd Burrell and Mark Greenhalgh. We'll get to our guest here in a second. Todd, last week you had a fun one with Hal.
Yeah, Hal and I had Michael Breed on last week. Great conversation. Mike's a gem. We had a real good time talking to him, and I think Hal really enjoyed it as well.
Well, I'm glad you guys had fun because I was sitting for 6 hours in the Birmingham airport. My flight was originally supposed to get home at 8:30 p.m. It landed at almost 1 a.m. So that was pure excitement for me. So glad you guys were able to take care of that. Why don't you tell everybody who we got with us this week?
Yeah, definitely excited tonight to have a dear friend of mine on with us. A guy I've known over 20 years now. Salt of the earth human being, former MLB pitcher, musician, among other things. Jason Ryan, aka Rhino, is with us tonight. So real excited to have Jay on. Welcome, Rhino.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's going to be fun.
And of course, as soon as I saw Rhino, I'm like, I know this guy. And he used to hang out with you when you came to the rink. And when you and I tried to kill each other playing hockey, we'd all have beers together afterwards.
That's right. That's why he's a familiar face.
Those are some of the best times.
Exactly, yeah. Till times that we won't speak about. I think the bar used to kick us out every once in a while. But there's a lot of similarities that we have between golf and baseball. But right off the rip, I know Todd's got a bunch of questions for you too, but I will always say that baseball players hit the ball a mile. I will never forget back in the 70s being at my dad's club when he was first an assistant professional, then the head pro there. And I saw for the first time this happen. Jim Rice came out and he hit a golf ball further than I had ever seen anybody hit a golf ball before. So you guys have played baseball, and it's got to be doing with the contact with the bat, because even though you're a pitcher, at some point you were probably a pretty good hitter too.
I was. I think it really comes from, the golf swing and the baseball swing are just two different planes, really. That's really what it boils down to. Yes, there's some technicalities in there with, your lower half, and you don't obviously take a step like you do in baseball, but it really boils down to the hand-eye coordination. It's very, very hard to hit a round ball with a round bat that's moving. And honestly, and Todd can attest to this because he's probably, I've never had a lesson, but if I was having lessons, Todd would be the guy that gave me the lessons. And usually they were playing lessons because we were always out on the course. And, he could tell you how bad I was in the very beginning. And then I caught on, and a lot of it's hand-eye coordination. Being a competitor, just going out there wanting to compete. These guys were way better than me. Todd was like fresh out of college. He was a great player. He hit missiles all over the place. And then, we had some other buddies that he went to college with that played with us, and a couple of, mini tour guys that would play with us. And of course, I don't know, I had a 20-something handicap at the time. These guys have single digits, if not plus handicaps. And yes, I was the low man on the totem pole, but, I was determined to compete with those guys because that's just how you are as an athlete. And I don't know, Toddy, how long did it take? A couple of years,
Not
3
long.
years, 2-3 years. And
Not
then I
long.
was not competing, but I was keeping up. It wasn't embarrassing anymore. And then, after a while, you just keep playing. And you pick things up here and there, and you become a fan, and you start watching and you start talking golf and everything kind of just falls into place. It's pretty cool sport, to be honest with you. It really is.
So Jay, give the people watching and listening a little family history here, because you did have some lineage that contributed to you being able to pick up something like golf. Golf's really hard to pick up for anybody, let alone in your 20s. To get to basically a scratch. I mean, I've seen you as low as a 2, a 1, a scratch. I've seen you shoot in the 60s many times. Give a little bit of the history of your family, starting with your dad down to your brother to now your 2 nephews that are both big league players.
Well, it's my family, ironically, over 100 years of baseball experience. My great uncle was on my dad's mom's side. He played in the big leagues in the 20s and 30s with Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth and all those guys. And then my grandfather played a little minor league ball. My dad played a little minor league ball. And then my brother was drafted. And then I was drafted. And there was, a 2 generational gap there between big leagues. My great uncle was in the big leagues. And then I ended up making it to the big leagues. My brother, unfortunately, didn't. And then he has 2 boys, one River Ryan and Ryder Ryan. And they both made it to the big leagues. And River was just in the trade with Tarek Skubal. He went from the Dodgers to Detroit, and he is, golly, man, that kid is talented. He is really, really,
He's
really
got
good.
2 rings.
He does have 2 rings, and
He's with the
not
Dodgers.
many people can say that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and when you talk about, you mentioned it at the get-go about the hand-eye coordination. I always try to explain to people that it doesn't matter how you get the club back. It doesn't matter where the club finishes. But the game of golf is really that very small space. And for me, with baseball players, it's all about you guys having the ability to deliver the club face square because you're used to delivering the bat square to where the pitch is coming in. Now, there's obviously, if it's outside, you may be taking it to right field as a right-handed batter. Inside, you take it to left field. But you're still trying to square that bat up to where the pitch is. And it's a very similar motion, like you said, with golf. And it takes a while for you to pick it up because you have something moving versus not moving, but the same concept allows you guys to really make that adaptation. My nephew's doing the same thing. My nephew was a baseball player for a long time. He's going to play college golf this year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Todd can attest to this. I'm not a technical player at all. I'm a field player. I can just remember what it feels like, and that's all I try to do is just try to duplicate that feeling over and over again. As long as I'm smooth, all I do is just try to hit the center of the face. That's it. If I can hit the center of the face, it's in play, it's around the green. I have very little expectation. And Todd and I had this conversation last year, and then we just had it again with his game just a couple of days ago. And I told him, I said, now I play 2-3 times a year, and my honestly, if you judge those 2-3 times a year in a handicap, I'm probably a scratch, if not a +1. I mean, I have no expectations. I go out there, try to put the ball in the fairway, try to put it on the green, and try to put it in the hole. And I swing smooth now. I'm not trying to hump up anymore. And the game has just gotten easier as I've had less expectations, and I don't swing that hard anymore. And I know that's such an easy concept to talk about. But when you're in your 20s and 30s, when you're still coming out of your shoes and you're leaving your shoes on the tee box and you're going to get your ball in the fairway somewhere, maybe, it really doesn't matter the 5 to 10 yard difference coming out of your shoes as compared to swinging smooth. And that's really all I try to do now is just remember how it feels. And yes, there are some technicalities to it, and Todd has coached me through those. And same thing in pitching when I was pitching. But when you're pitching, you're trying to compete at 90% because now you're under control. And when you're really feeling good is when you can go back and get that other 10%. There's only a couple athletes on the planet in the history that can turn it up when they need to. In the golf world, Tiger Woods, we all know that. Jack Nicklaus. I mean, there's just guys that when the spotlight was big, they showed up. And in baseball, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, some of these guys that are just, when they go and get that extra gear, they are just head and shoulders better than everybody else. And it's just so impressive. I didn't have that type of talent, but I learned to pitch at 90% as a starting pitcher because my goal, unlike today, was to throw a complete game every time I went out there. That was my goal. I had my three main goals was go at least 5 innings so I don't screw over my bullpen, be out there longer than the opposing pitcher, and then third, win the game. And I know that's maybe a little bit unconventional to some other people that want to win first, but if I did the first two, the third, a lot of times, took care of itself. And I just wanted to beat the other team so bad. And of course, you got to tip your hat to some people. They get your number and you try to figure out how to beat them. But, the key part of going into the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning was that you started out in the first 5 innings, pounding the zone, getting ahead of hitters, not throwing every pitch 100 miles an hour, and it was establishing the strike zone and getting ahead and getting ground balls and certain situations. Now with all the analytics, which in my opinion has kind of ruined the sport, it's guys, they teach guys, hitters, it doesn't matter where the ball is or what count you're in or what situation you're in. Just swing as hard as you can. The analytics will take care of itself. And more times than not, you'll get what you want. Well, I posted something on my Facebook page the other day is the last 8 years in a row, there have been more strikeouts than 300 hitters when it comes to the grand scheme of things. Everybody's just striking out all the time. I think it was more strikeouts than walks or something along those lines. And I think there's like 2 or 300 hitters right now in the game. I mean, it's just in my era, if you didn't bat 280, 290 to get to the big leagues, you weren't getting to the big leagues. You just weren't. You weren't going to get called up. And a guy like who's the fella for the Dodgers, the left-handed hitter outfielder that they got. Shoot, I forget his name. He got $60 million a year. He got $60 million a year. Kyle Tucker is his name. He got $60 million a year, and to bat 270 and hit 25 home runs and 80 RBIs. Are you kidding me? I mean, those guys were doing that just to get to the big leagues. And so, analytics is great. It is. I use it for my program here at Rock Hill High School, but it's not what governs us. And it can only help you. And I guess analytics has always been a part of golf. I mean, you've always had swing trainers and this, that, and the other to try to get to the perfect position to be in, to try to square the ball up. But I think technology in golf is what's really taken the stronghold of some of these young guys. And Toddy and I talked about this the other day, is there's guys in high school that are turning pro. That wasn't even a path 25 years ago. Hell, 10 years ago, that wasn't even a path. And now
Hal and
you
Michael
got young guys that are, 5'6", 100 and nothing pounds, and they're pounding the ball, and they're just so polished, and they work under pressure, and it's just like, holy cow, these guys are amazing. And anybody can go out there and win a tournament now because the competition is just so stout. There isn't one guy, though. I mean, yes, you got Scheffler and you got 1 or 2 guys that are dominant, but the majority of the guys, and you got a new winner each week, and they're young and they're coming in hot and heavy. But I don't know if times have changed, to where I'm just getting older and I don't necessarily get it because I'm not on the in anymore. But the game was sure a lot easier to play and a lot cleaner when I played it than it is today. You got guys overrunning bases. You got guys not knowing what to do with the ball when they get it. It's mind-boggling to me. And maybe it's a lack of being a student of the game. I just love the history of the game. And maybe it was my family history that got me into that. But, back when I was a kid, I'm a Yankees fan. I know that's not good with you, Greeny and Collins, but, I
or
knew
Todd being the Toronto Blue Jays guy.
Well, Todd, yeah, he lets me know often when Toronto's beating up on the Yankees. But, I knew the lineup when we played wiffle ball or something. The lineup was the same day in and day out. Now, with all the moves, injuries, who's hot, who's not. They just go with who's the hot hand now. It doesn't matter, what's going on anymore. And lineups change daily. You see that every day,
Yeah.
except obviously your guys that are getting paid, the big bucks. They're in the lineup every day. But, you got Kyle Schwarber, who can't hit his way out of a wet paper bag. He hits 50 home runs a year, but he can't run, he can't field, he can't do anything. He's leading off. That's not the conventional leadoff hitter that I remember. It's going to steal 60 bags a year and get on base, and he's going to bat around 300. I mean, that doesn't exist anymore.
Jay, let me ask you, what do you see? I mean, Greeny, I'll say this: coaching athletes is a lot different than coaching guys who just come to you for a lesson in golf. And Jay's one of those examples where less is more in terms of what you tell him when it comes to hitting the golf ball. Like he said, he's a field player. Jay, a lot of the guys you started playing golf with because you used to play with the pitchers, right, on your off days. Isn't that how you kind of got into it before we met?
It is.
What do you think? What do you think it is about pitching specifically that is similar from a mental standpoint and from a physical standpoint to hitting a golf ball? The mental approach, obviously you're a pitcher, you're on a team with a bunch of other guys and you rely on them to be successful to some degree, but you've got the ball in your hand, just like you got the ball in your hand when you're playing golf. Talk about some of the similarities of the two and why you were able to translate some of that from your success in baseball to how quickly you were able to go from, like you said, when we met, shooting in the 90s to really over a 2.5 year period with no real structured lessons other than me giving you swing tips and you playing with good players, basically picking it up and getting where you got to.
I think even today, it's pitching's all mental. Golf's all mental. Because I was so mentally strong, I wasn't the best athlete. I wasn't the best pitcher. I didn't have the best stuff, but I was just so mentally determined to beat you. I was going to find some way to do that. Golf, very similar. I mean, you're on a pitcher's mound, you're there by yourself. Golf, you're on the tee box or you're in the fairway or on the green by yourself. And the correlation was just really easy between the two because I did pitching at such a high level and I had to control my emotions. Guys that I was facing, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Derek Jeter, Mark McGwire, Tony Gwynn, all these guys, you could be starstruck very easily when you're up on the mound, especially as a rookie and you're facing these guys. And I told myself, don't look at them. Right? Don't become starstruck. Don't look at him. It's just another ball player. And that mental side just really helped me develop a calm sense of your talent will shine through. Just stick with the game plan. And the correlation to golf, I mean, yeah, on the off days, I never played golf. My father wasn't a golfer, and I wish I picked the sport up at a younger age. But on our off days, all the pitchers would go and play golf. And I was sitting around twiddling my thumbs. I'm like, this isn't going to happen. Like, I got to do something, So, and these are my teammates. So, I mean, they're all like, hey, man, you want to go play? I'm like, I've never played. And they're like, oh, we don't want you to come in because you're going to slow us up. And so I was just determined to start practicing and playing. Of course, my swing in the beginning probably looked like an unfolded lawn chair. And I couldn't hardly hit the ball and it felt awkward. But just that drive and determination mentally to just try to get better and just, have fun on my off days and enjoy the day. And, I was fortunate enough to be a baseball player. In my opinion, those are the best athletes on the planet when it comes to a sport. You could take a baseball player and pretty much stick them in any sport and they'll be able to compete as compared to some of the other sports that, they're a little bit more specific in what their job was. The times I would get nervous playing against Todd and those guys because I just wanted to beat them. And I remember there's a close friend of ours. His name is Gordon Chilton. And he was on some of the mini tours at the time. And he was a great player, nice, smooth, just silky swing, just all of the above, right? It was just so nice to watch. And I was starting to get better. and I caught him on an off day, and he caught me on a really good day, and I beat him. And I let him know because I was nobody, right? I was 3 years into playing, 4 years into playing. He had played his entire life, and man, was he pissed. He didn't want to talk to me at all. And of course, me, all of us, we were young, we'd razz each other. And I was giving it to him, and finally I stopped because I could see it in the look in his eye because he was like, okay, let's go back out there. Let's see what you got.
Yeah,
And
you didn't want to do
that's
that.
just kind of how I just wrapped it up in a nutshell. I mean, I kind of knew when to stop, but the mental side of it is I prided myself so much on keeping my brain calm, not letting the situation get a hold of me to where I was out of control. And that's really what I focused on pitching. And that's, even when I got nervous around, we're not playing for any money. This is just pride, but I would get nervous over a 5-foot putt. And, I'd get some guys chirping in the background, hey, it's going to go a little left, and, I just kind of screw with your mind a little bit. And, that sharpens you. You hear stories about Tiger's dad doing that to him at any given moment. And I'm like, yes, that is how you lock in, is when you're distracted or when somebody's trying to distract you. And it just made sense. It really did. And, I'm pumping up Toddy's tires a little bit here, but he just saw what type of athlete I was. And he saw what my swing was turning into. So he automatically, and I don't know how, he has a lot of God-given abilities when it comes to golf. And one of them is teaching and finding things to say and not talk too much. I think we've all had teachers that just give you every number from 1 to 10, and you're like, I don't even know where to start. And he knew what to say and when to say it.
Yeah, it's a mental thing too, Jason, right? I mean, it's we see baseball players and we see batters, we see pitchers, and golf's no different. We all have a process that we go through. I mean, most people that have ever watched baseball, won't forget Nomar Garciaparra and the process that he went through. He'd probably get, strikes called on him nowadays, but just from, doing whatever he was doing. And it's the same thing from a golfer's perspective. Like, you get over that 5-foot putt, you go through your process. Your bases loaded, 3 balls, 2 strikes. You don't want to change your process, right? You want to your point, you want to stick with the program. You want to do the same thing, go through the process, go through the signs, whatever that was. And it's a calming effect. And then probably the satisfaction is, you just said the guys are razzing you on the 5-footer. You make that 5-footer, or you strike that guy out, to end the inning with the bases loaded in a jam. Those are very comparable things.
It is. You're spot on, Greeny. Ironically, you bring up Nomar. He was my second strikeout in the big leagues, because my first start was against Boston Red Sox and Pedro Martinez, and that's when he carried I think it carried a 170 ERA, and he won the Cy Young that year. So he was pretty intense and pretty special. And I had the bases loaded with Nomar Garciaparra up in the 3rd inning with 2 outs. And this is my mentality in a nutshell. So I'm a rookie. It's my first start. I'm in the big leagues. I'm pitching in Minnesota. It's a packed house only because Boston's in town, not because we were something special. And I had the bases loaded, 2 outs, Nomar's up. Obviously, he's a great player. And to myself, I just said, you know what? F it. Here you go, man. If you can hit it, you can rename it. And I threw it as hard as I could right down the middle, and he blew it right by him. And there's something to be said about that mentally, is if you're not prepared to do whatever, to throw a pitch, to make a putt, to make a swing, and you're not 100% I'm all in, it's not going to go the way you want it to go. Even if it's their strength and it's my strength, I'm still going to go to my strength because I'm the convicted one, And what I didn't know at 4 years in playing golf is, Greeny, you said it, routine. I didn't know what a routine was in golf. I knew what it was in baseball. And for whatever reason, it was probably because I was so young at the game. I was just learning. I was learning rules. I was learning don't walk in somebody's line, don't stand behind the cup when somebody's putting, these little things that I had no idea that I picked up asking questions of our group. I didn't know. And I think if I had a better routine at a younger age playing golf, maybe I would have been even better. I don't know. Now I have a routine. I get it. It all clicks now. But as a pitcher, you're so locked in with your routine that you're not thinking about your mechanics. You're thinking about execution. And that's what those guys on PGA Tour, that's all they think about is execution. If you're thinking about your mechanics while you're swinging, good luck. You're not winning a tournament. And if you do, it was just luck, because the chances of you thinking about your swing every time you pull the trigger, I mean, and it goes where you want it to go, it's almost nil, right? So that is, that is something that I think is underappreciated is a player's routine and what they do every single day to get themselves.
Similar, Jay? Is it similar where when you're working on your mechanics pitching, is it similar to, like we always talk about, bringing it to the golf course when you're practicing, right? So on the driving range, if I'm working on a specific swing thought, I want to get my swing improved in a certain way on the range, but then the trick is, can I bring the confidence I build on the range to the golf course without thinking about the technical aspect of it? Is it similar in terms of what you work on? Because you hear when you're watching baseball and guys are broadcasting and talking about pitchers' mechanics, I understand way more of it now because I know you and I know what to look for. But is it similar? Are you trying to fine tune things, working on your mechanics on the practice field, and then when you're in a game, you're trying to translate that confidence without thinking technically while you're in the moment?
It's one of the hardest things to do, is because you'll have great practice sessions on the range. I'll have a great bullpen. And it is very difficult to bring and remember that same thing you were doing there, and then you're not having to think about it in the game. You got to think about getting the out. You got to think about making a good swing, making a putt, making a shot. And it's one of the hardest things to do. Pitching coaches talk about it all the time, especially right before the game when you're warming up. There's times I've had electric stuff before a game, and I go out in the game and I get my head kicked in. Then I've had stuff to where I'm like, all right, here we go. I don't know what's going to happen. And I go out and I'm in the 8th inning and I got a 2-1 ball game. So it's one of the hardest things to duplicate, because that's your shot, that this is your time to shine and it's your job, and you're trying to do the best you can and not think about all these little things, all these little nuances that you were practicing, and apply that without really thinking about it. And it's repetition, it's knowing your mechanics inside and out, to where if you are unbalanced a hair, you know where to go fix. And some of the best pitchers are their own pitching coaches. And I would assume that's probably some of the best golfers are their own coaches out on the course, because if you have they say a starter has 30 starts a year. 5 starts you can get Zeus out. 5 starts, I'm not going to be able to get my mother out. It's the 20 starts in the middle is when you have to learn how to pitch. And that is knowing your mechanics and knowing your routine and knowing what guys can hit and what guys can hit. Maybe that day my curveball is great and my slider is terrible. Well, you know what? My slider usually is my second best pitch. Today, my curveball is my second best pitch. So, I've heard guys talk out on the golf course, I'm playing to 120 yards today. I'm not playing to 80 yards because I feel like I don't know if I can even hit the green at 80 yards. So I'm going to dial it back a little bit. I'm going to get to my 120-yard club, and I'm going to smooth it in there, and I'm going to have a decent day. That's how those guys turn those around, and it's so similar in baseball. It really is, even for hitters, because a guy will take batting practice every single day before the game, and maybe they're popping it up in the cage, or maybe they just don't feel well. Well, come the game, all that stuff goes out the window, and it's competition time. So, Toddy, it is about as close as you're going to get in two different sports and learning how to take that out to you in competition.
So what in your mind clicked to really get you kind of over that hump? I mean, a lot of people, they want to break 80. I mean, there's trends, right? Got people that first start playing golf, of course, 100's the thing. They want to break 100, then they want to go to 90, then they want to go to 80, then they, obviously if you can break 70, then it's amazing. But what was kind of that hump for you, and what did it take to get there?
To be honest with you, it was Todd, because we'd go over to his place and we'd putt, and all we would do was putt. And we would putt for hours, and we'd have little games, this, that, and the other. And he would say, dude, if you can do this on the course, you'll take 5 strokes off your game. And I was like, okay. I mean, I was such a wing it player, and he was kind of reeling me in. So my short game got a little better. Okay, so I went from 90 into like 86, 87 range I was stuck at for a good while. And then I got to the 81, 82 range, and I was stuck at that for a while. And then I broke into the 70s. And when I broke into the 70s and I stayed in the 70s, it was hitting the center of the face. That's what really got me over the hump.
Yeah.
Was just try to square it up every time you hit the ball. Don't worry about where it's going necessarily. Just try to square it up. And obviously, good things are going to happen when you do that. And, I'm not a great putter. I'm an okay putter. I'm an okay wedge player. I rely on my hands. Toddy can tell you this. I mean, all I do around the green is just rely on feel. And as long as I can keep the club moving through the ball, it's going to work out pretty good. And I'd say probably, I would probably say in my early 40s, 42, 43 years old, is when I took that approach on just trying to square it up every time and not swing so hard. And that's when I broke into the 70s, and then I broke into the 60s, shortly after that. And it was just really cerebral to know that you really just have to get out of your own way. I mean, don't have the expectation. Don't play tees that you're not supposed to be playing is probably one of the more important things. And Toddy can probably tell you that, being the head pro and a director of golf at his place, is guys choose the wrong tees all the time, and it slows up play. And, just because they can bomb it 300 yards, the rest of their game is just awful. And it takes them forever to finish a round. So, it's it definitely comes in stages and in waves. But more so the mental side of it is what got me over the hump each time. And as soon as you get there and you can do it, then you start doing it more often, right? I mean, it's just like, it's such a roadblock. And getting from 100 to the 90s, the 80s, I was stuck in for a really long time. I would say probably
That's normal.
4 or 5 years. I was pretty much stuck between between 80 and 88 every time I went out there, and it kind of became a little discouraging. And I come home. I'm sure everybody has these stories. I come home. I'm like, I'm never playing golf again. I'm done. The clubs are going up. I'm not going to touch a club. And sometimes I wouldn't touch a club for 2 months, 3 months, and then I go back out there, and it was good again. And it just tells you it's all mental. It really is. And then once I broke into the 70s and I could hang with my group and stuff like that, and now I'm playing against my nephew, River, who loves to play, and he still hasn't beat me yet. He will one of these days. But it's routine. It's understanding that you can do it. And as soon as you can do it, then that's really all you need at the end of the day. And, if you work at it a little bit, then it comes to you.
With athletes like Jay, and I've worked with a number of them over the years, there's the ability to put the club face on the ball is there early, and you just know that. Like, he's not the kind of guy that's ever going to top a shot, even when he was learning, right?
Right, yeah.
So it would be left or it would be right, but it would be hit, right? And it's like Nicholas said back in the day, like, hit it far first, and what he really meant was hit it in the center of the face first, and then we'll figure out where the face is aimed. And like you referred to earlier with the bat and the ball, I mean, he's got an innate sense because of that sport of how to square up a ball with an object. So he was able to do that at early on when I met him, and it was really just fine tuning short game. My observation of him progressing and evolving was it was really just adding shots to his repertoire. It was bash the ball, go find it, use my athletic ability and my competitiveness and my grind. That's something that Jay's got that a lot of guys I play golf with don't have, is he won't quit, even if he's just chopping, So
Yeah.
he had all those intangibles. It was just a matter of over time, like, hey, we're going to add this shot this year. We're going to try this. Here's what you're doing on your bunker shots. Here's how you hit them a little higher and softer. And athletes are sponges. Like, they're just sponges. You just tell them what to do. You give them one little simple thing, boom, something clicks. Now they got that shot. And then, that now in their mind, okay, I've got that figured out. Now let's move on to the next thing. And that's kind of how I watched his game evolve. I'll tell you a short story about him. We don't play as much as we used to. We used to play all the time. He used to work at part-time at the golf course I was an assistant at. We were both young single dudes. We were playing golf all the time and competing and pushing each other and working on each other's games and doing other things as well. But we play maybe once or twice a year now, Jay, maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I think it was now, 2 years ago, I think my wife and daughter were out of town for the weekend. It was like February. He had some time. I texted him and said, hey, we got to get out and play regardless what the weather is. Yep, I can do it. So he comes out here to Carolina Lakes, and Greeny, you've played out here. It's not an easy track.
Correct.
We go out, and this guy puts 66 on the board, clean card with 6 birdies, birdieing the last hole. I think I shot 76 or 77 and just got absolutely waxed. And it was probably the best round I've seen you play. I know you've played better rounds than that, but it was probably the best golf I've ever seen you play. And you hadn't swung a golf club in how long prior to that?
6 months.
Probably a while.
6 months? Yeah.
You said low expectations, baby. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're going to take a quick break. Want to remind everybody about our sponsor, Makefield Putters, made in the USA. They have their radial cusp technology, helps you get a nice equator strike, reducing the skid effect of the ball coming off the putter face. The 3-weight system is one of the greatest things you'll ever see. All the different styles. They have the new blade putter to go along with the mallet putters. You can do all kind of personalization to them. They've got different colors. You can put logos. You can put words on them. You can do anything you want to these things. Make sure you're going out to makefieldgolf.com. And if you're in the Charlotte area, you can always go check him out at Todd's place. He's fitting people. He's selling putters. He's using a Makefield putter. He's using the blade. I've putted with his. I've adjusted the weights a little bit, and I was making everything out on that putting green. So make sure that you go out to makefieldgolf.com, check them out. Also remind everybody about Peak Vision. See like you've never seen before with Peak Vision sunglasses. The difference is immediate. You want to make sure that you use the promo code GS15 at peakvision.com. And also, if you want to catch up on all the Be the Right Club Today podcasts, or if you want to buy some of our great merchandise out there, make sure you go out to BeTheRightClubToday.com. There's a shop out there. All the podcasts are out there. Check them all out.
You hit at least 18 putts around, more like low 30s. So you better make sure you got the right putter in your hand. And I don't think people have spent enough time trying to make sure they have that. Hi, I'm Hal Sutton. 25 years ago, I had the right club at the right moment, and it made a huge difference. Today, I've teamed up with Makefield Putters. I now use the right putter today. You see, Makefield has unique radial cusp technology. The ball releases faster off the face and keeps the ball rolling more on its axis. The result is a straighter putt, more on target. When you get everything just right, the putter that fits you just right, the one that you believe in, your confidence should be oozing out of you. So I would encourage all consumers, go to the Makefield website and educate yourself and get fitted correctly, get the right putter in your hand, and there's hope for better putting ahead.
Golf is challenging enough. Between the sandbagging bandits, the wind, rain, and your homemade swing, it sometimes feels impossible. You need a legal 15th club. You need Peak Vision sunglasses.
4 to 5 hours of protection against glare and ultraviolet light with clarity as clear as crown glass. That's Peak Vision Sunglasses, your secret 15th club, giving you one less obstacle to overcome. Just one try is all it takes, and the price is less than national brands. Use the code GS15 at peakvision.com.
Welcome back to the Be the Right Club Today podcast presented by Makefield Putters. Mark Greenhouse, Todd Burrell, Jason Ryan, former MLB pitcher. And, Todd and Jason, as we look at the golf season that has just wrapped up and we start talking about playoffs, Jason, I know this is, baseball is your sport. Golf's kind of your second love, it sounds like, as we've been going through this conversation. When you start talking about playoffs, what do you want to see from golf playoffs? We know that we've had some, different things. We've had the FedEx Cup playoffs. We've had guys start with a 10 under par and other guys starting at even par. This year we're going to get back to the final 30 guys. It's just peg it in the ground and let's go 72 holes. They're talking about in the future maybe some kind of a match play format. I mean, baseball playoffs, hockey playoffs, Todd and I are hockey guys too. Hockey playoffs are phenomenal. We've got college football that's got their playoffs and expand. What do you want to see from a golf perspective as the fan now of playing golf and watching golf?
I always appreciated just tee it up and see where it ends. When the FedEx Cup had, the point system to where guys didn't even have to play in a tournament if they were that far ahead. And I never thought that was really fair in the playoffs. Everybody needs to have an equal opportunity to beat each other. And honestly, the guys that qualify, for however many spots are going to be in the playoffs, tee it up and let me see what you got. 72 holes. I mean, if you don't have it that 4 days, then you just don't have it, and there should be some reward, for guys that are playing really well. I've always thought maybe, to make it really interesting. And of course, gambling is a huge part of every sport now, which I got personal feelings about that. But because it is in every sport, why not have a format to where they go out and there's trash, or there's greenies, or there's birdies, or there's sandies, or, some of those games that the average amateur golfer can relate to, instead of these guys. Yes, you're cheering on your favorite, golfer, but at the end of the day, most of the amateurs, excluding guys on this channel, because I know we've all met pro golfers and we've played with pro golfers, they don't know what that's like. They don't know what it's like to be a pro golfer and to be at that type of level. Of course, they cheer on their best mate, but if you related the playoffs to something that the amateur golfer does out on the golf course, whether it be, horse or snake or something that guys are like, yes, I can relate to this, and we're going to go take it out on the golf course tomorrow after we see these playoffs today. And I think that's where it gets the common fan more involved. The game is ever evolving. Now they're talking about dialing back the golf ball, from Augusta National, and maybe that's something that everybody needs to look at, because guys are just bombing. I mean, at stratosphere balls. I mean, Rory only needs about 3 clubs in his bag. I mean, that's not even fair. The Corey Pavins of the world don't even come out to play anymore because they don't hit it long enough. So yeah. I'd like to see playoffs that more of the fans can relate to. Personally, that's my personal opinion.
Where are you at, Todd?
Big.
I mean,
the person's really big.
Yeah, I think Jay knows I'm a purist. I think we've touched on this on the channel before too. Like, I don't hate the idea of a match play tournament next year. Or in 28, I know they're floating that idea. I know that's been put out there. But then, Jay makes a good point. Like, if you can make the playoff atmosphere more relatable to the fan, that could pay dividends in terms of viewership. I don't know. What I do know is the sports that I do watch and that I do enjoy watching, I enjoy the playoff format. And that even goes for NBA. I mean, I've been a huge critic of the NBA for the last 10 years. I just think it is not basketball anymore. It's a bunch of guys shooting threes and it's all iso ball and it just does not look like team basketball. I prefer the college game. But I'll tell you what, they let them play this past NBA playoffs and there were hard fouls and you had to earn it in the lane. And I love that, being a hockey guy, because Greeny, as you know, the hockey playoffs are a completely different brand than the regular season. And I think most people who are casual fans or not even fans of hockey, if they tune into a playoff game, they're going to be like, whoa, what is this? I need more of this in my life. And I don't know that the golf playoffs have that. And I think NASCAR struggle with that. I've made that point on this channel before, on the podcast before as well, is NASCAR struggled with that for a while too, trying to figure out how to really get people interested in the playoff format. I don't know what the answer is necessarily, but I think they're still tinkering with it because they haven't gotten something that they've gone back to year after year after year in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion that, and I like what Jason said. I mean, peg it in the ground, whether it's stroke play or match play. I think, when we talk playoffs, right, people get eliminated, and that's okay, right? I mean, the best, sometimes the number one. I mean, look at the NHL. To your point, I mean, the President's Trophy winner going to the team that has the best record hardly ever wins the Stanley Cup anymore.
Right.
So why should we give a benefit to the number one player after the entire season? Everybody should start on equal footing coming into the playoffs. I'm almost of the opinion of, we're starting this week with 70 guys. All 70 guys should start equal. And you know what? Let the top 50 this week survive. And if we have to have a playoff to get to 50, so be it. Let's do it. If we have to have a playoff to get down to 30 the following week, everybody tees it up and the top 30 move on. And then we do a match play or something, whatever it is, I think we're concerned too much sometimes about losing the moneymaker, right? We talk about a Super Bowl. Well, you're going to get, you could get two smaller markets, right? You could get, in baseball, you could get Kansas City versus, pick somebody from the National
Milwaukee.
League that's a smaller team, right? And, nobody's going to watch. Everybody watches because people want to see sometimes that underdog win. And I think you underestimate your fan base by saying that, well, if we play a match play and Scotty Scheffler gets beat early on, nobody's going to watch. Yeah, they will. Have faith that your fans want to see maybe that, a Jackson Koiven coming in this week at number 70. Maybe they want to see him win it all.
I think you make a great point there. I think part of the allure of sports, especially playoff sports, is the pressure on the top dog not to get eliminated. There's additional pressure there. If you run away with the President's Trophy in hockey or you win the pennant and it's not even close, they're expecting you to advance. They're expecting you to go to the World Series. Maybe not win it, but at least get there. And then there's franchises, big market franchises, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dallas Cowboys, the Toronto Maple Leafs, those types of teams that there's so much internal pressure in those markets that creates a buzz and that creates, fan anxiety. And I think there's a lot. I think the casual fan wants to see the underdog win more than the big dog, And hey, look, when Tiger was in his prime, 50% of the people watching him wanted to see him win and the other 50% really wanted to see him lose. But everybody was watching.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody was watching. And I think if they can come, I'm with you, Greeny, on that. I think I agree there. Look, if Scotty Scheffler's by far the best player in the world and he tees it up and it's 70 guys and he can get eliminated and the 70th guy can move on, so be it. It wasn't his week. Just like Jay said earlier, like tee it up and let's see what you got right now when it really matters.
Well, Jason, man, we really appreciate you coming on with us tonight and talking a little baseball, talking a little golf. And Todd, thanks for picking me up last week and coming back on this week.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me, guys. It was
that
fun.
Has been the Be the Yeah.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. That is the Be the Right Club Today podcast presented by Makefield Putters. Hal Sutton back next week.
Thank you for listening to Be the Right Club Today with your host, Hal Sutton and Mark Greenhalgh. Presented by Makefield Putters.
The preceding episode was a production of Moonlight Media Works in association with Walk Marketing.